Well, we're moving right along here, and we have another speaker coming up in just a moment. But first, we have a really great video for you to check out. So take a look.
My junior year, we were preseason #1. We handled Northwestern the first game. We're getting ready to go down to Ross-Ade Stadium, and it started raining about 4 a.m. Defense played great, shutting them down, and right before halftime, they caught a screen pass and went about 65 yards for a touchdown to go up 7-0. Finally, the fourth quarter, with about 7 minutes to go, we put a drive together. I think we started our own 20 and just hammer it down. Again, we're running the ball. We're throwing some quick stuff. We call the snap. I never see the ball. I look down, the ball's rolling on the ground in the mud between my legs. It just, the center never got off the ground out of his hand. We had confidence the defense could get him 3 and out, back him up. So we hold them on third down. All of a sudden, they bobble the snap. Fred Swenson, I believe, jumps on it, and the party ensues. It's 7-6 with 2 minutes and change left, and we had worked on a 2-point play throughout the week. It's basically a simple thing where I faked a tear sweep, kind of turned my back to the line of scrimmage. Mike Creaney would line up at tight end left. He would fake a block, go to his knee, hence the genuflect play, get up and slip off into the left side of the end zone. So Era simply said, go get us 2, run the play.
And Notre Dame is going to go for 2 points. They're going to try to win it. Steenberge is going back to throw. He throws the end zone. It's caught. That's Creaney. Notre Dame is taking the lead over Purdue.
And we win the game 8-7. And it was just a magical, magical moment for all of us. We remain #1 in the country. You know, in my memory, we called it the genuflect play because Mike Creaney actually went to his knees. His job was to fake a down block, go to his knees so that the defensive back would not even think that he was coming out as a receiver. Get up as if he just missed a block and then slip off into the left side. You know, I really can't tell you for sure if it was called the genuflect play before or after. I'm not really sure. I just know it worked.
How awesome was that? That is fantastic. So Pat Steenberge, of course, after serving as the backup quarterback to Joe Theismann, Pat was named the starting QB in 1971, and he won his 2 starts, a 50-7 just demolishing over Northwestern, and then of course the 8-7 comeback victory over Purdue. We just saw that before a leg injury would sideline him. He has the honor to say that he is undefeated as a Notre Dame quarterback. 2-0, baby. As he moved on from his career in football, he stayed with a career in football, but just in a little bit different path. He became the owner and operator of Global Football, which organizes competitive events for young amateur athletes worldwide. Global Football is the largest exporter of American football, having produced games and events in 28 countries since 1996. Amazing. Truly an ambassador for American football around the world. We bring up Pat now to speak.
As I looked at that pass, didn't it look like the ones Rockne's guys were throwing that kind of just floated up in the air there? And Mike Creaney's here. Creans, where are you? There you go. Thanks for catching that ball. Otherwise nobody would remember me. I had that one moment. It's almost, as I was sitting here watching that video, it's almost embarrassing that I get, recognized here. But, I remember in 1968, I was at Erie Cathedral Prep in Pennsylvania. Mike McCoy, who you all remember probably, was a defensive tackle here at Erie Prep. And he had gone to Notre Dame, and I went to a Catholic grade school and a Catholic high school, and I had this dream of going to Notre Dame. But we ran the ball all but about 4 plays a game my sophomore and junior year. And I started because I could remember the plays and give it to the right guy. Before my senior year, our coach leaves. He takes a job down in the Whippeal in Pittsburgh. Tony Zambrowski, who had played here under Frank Leahy as a lineman, took over as head coach. And he says, come on in, meet in my office. I go in to meet him. He says, sit down, meathead. He didn't think quarterbacks were real football players, which was probably true. And he slid a book over to me and he said, read this. We're going to have some fun. And it was Tiger Ellison's Run and Shoot Football. And all of a sudden, we went from throwing the ball 3 times a game to throwing the ball 35, 40 times a game. So I was able to get recruited and ended up coming here. And I knew as a freshman, freshmen weren't eligible then. So you played just on a prep team, a scout team. But I came in with an injury from the Big 33 game. Joe Theismann is a junior, and I'm watching him play and going, wow, he's pretty good, And we get there, and they had told me there were 3 quarterbacks that were going to be on scholarship. One of them, Jim Bulger, who was 6'5" and could really throw the ball. And his son was Mark Bulger, who ended up being a great NFL guy. But there were 16 quarterbacks. And I'm like on crutches from getting hurt at the Big 33 game. And I'm like, I remember calling my dad and my mom that night. And I'm watching Theismann play over here going, man, he's really good. He's got feet. He's got an arm. I'm on crutches. There's 15 other quarterbacks. This might have been a really bad decision. And my mom's in the back going, I told you Princeton would have been the place to go, She wanted me to go Ivy League, And my dad gave me the fatherly advice of like, son, you had decision. Woody wanted you. Jopa wanted you. You made your decision. Get healed and get in there. So went on, worked my way up to being the number 2 guy that spring. And I'm playing behind Joe, right? I'm not going to beat him out. But I'm just happy to be on the same field. And remember, Era was our quarterbacks coach, basically, right? I was Tom Packman, but the days of the game, we'd have our signals, and Era would be in there. And whatever Joe would answer, I'd answer. What do you do on this play? I do this. Yeah, that's what I do. Whatever Joe did, I just don't do it as quick. And but and the season went on, and about halfway through the season, a friend of mine from Erie, and back then there wasn't film, right? So you had Notre Dame alums who really introduced you to the football team. And there was a guy named John McCormick, a great guy from Erie, Pennsylvania, who helped recruit me basically as an alum. He came out to have me out to dinner midway through the season. And we're like 5-0, right? We had a great season going. I'm playing number 2, and I'm feeling pretty good. I beat all these other guys out, and Joe's playing really well. And he goes, I'm going to bring with me your high school rival coach. I went to Erie Prep. He was at Erie McDowell, the big public school in the suburbs. That guy's name was Joe Moore, who some of you may know, right, from the Joe Moore Award. He was my rival high school coach. And that man scared me. I mean, he frightened me on the sideline. Okay, so he comes out. I'd met him a couple of times. We're having dinner at Eddie's, I think, right? It was the restaurant over here, nice steak restaurant. And I'm sitting there in my coat and tie, being a very proper sophomore guy. And these guys, they're having their pops, they enjoyed a beer here and there. And we're talking, we're just going on, and we're talking about the season and everything. And all of a sudden, Coach Moore, his tone totally changes. He's sitting next to me, and John McCormick's sitting across, and he goes, why aren't you starting? And I went, excuse me? He goes, why aren't you the starting quarterback? And he gets his coach face, right? And he's an O-line coach. And I went, I think, Joe's playing pretty well. We're undefeated. And all of a sudden, he reaches across and he grabs me by the shirt and the collar, and he jacks me up out of my seat. And he goes, if you don't think you're better than him, you never will be better. And he throws me back in my seat. Whoa, that's an O-line coach. Anyway, I wasn't any better. And I'd watch, there'd be like certain Tuesdays on practice. We'd have 1 and 2 offense running the same plays against the prep team defense. They'd run a play, we'd run a play, and I threw that ball pretty well. Yeah, I got that ball. I'd go home some afternoons going, damn, I'm almost as good as him. And then we'd go to the games on Saturday, go, damn, he's good. And the only other story I remember is USC, where it was a downpour, right? It would look like that Purdue game you saw there. It was just thunder. They wouldn't play the game, did it? It was thunder, lightning. They had Clarence Davis was running wild all over the field. Joe Theismann was throwing wild all over the field. 538 yards, right around there. I mean, that's crazy, right? Throwing for over 500 yards in the Coliseums against USC. We're both undefeated. And I remember, and that dang white horse kept running up and down. Every time Clarence Davis would be there, comes that cloppity clop, and the mud would fly, They had no respect. And I remember like in the fourth quarter, it was still right. It was a battle going back and forth. And we called timeout or something. And Joe kind of came over and he was holding something, you know. And when you're the backup guy, you support your teammate, right? But you also kind of want to play. Like, oh, is Joe hurt a little bit? What? You know. But at that point, I was like, Joe, you got to stay in. I'm really cold and wet. I don't think I can handle it right now. Fortunately, he went on, had a great game, and the rest of his career was history. The rest of mine, I had one play, but now, yeah, as he mentioned, and thank you for mentioning that, I've been very blessed to find a way to stay in football. 20 years after I got done playing here, I created this global football idea with it. Really, it's an educational way for high school kids and small college kids to travel overseas with their team, do educational trips, and play football against a foreign team, usually, or against other high school teams. Now, the games in Ireland, when Notre Dame went there 2 years ago, I took 6 high school teams. We played on Friday. And this past year, now that it's an annual game that John Anthony does, I take 6 high schools every year and we play alongside. It'll be Iowa State, Kansas State this year. So if you know high schools who want to travel and play and have the experience of their lifetime, that's awesome. People say, what was your best ever event? In 2011, I took Drake University out of Iowa, and we played against a Mexican all-star team of their universities, and it was the first American football game ever on the continent of Africa. And it was just an amazing 16 days, 3 days of service work in orphanages, in schools. We got to do a photo safari, and the cool part was we got to climb Mount Kilimanjaro at 19,321. And I'm ready to go again as soon as somebody's ready to join me. Joe, it was awesome to play behind you, to be around you. And like, I never get invited here if you're not here tonight. So thanks for having me. Joe Theismann.
Keep it going for Pat. That was amazing. What a great speaker he was. A good